Hello and welcome to the first episode of The Last Shift. I'm Tara Jean, this is Rob Terra, and we are ready to talk about hockey.
Great, because even though it's an NHL shortened season, there's still plenty to talk about.
Lots to talk about, and we're going to start with the Canucks tonight. They just got Ryan Kesler back this weekend. Rob, what do you think about the Canucks at this time of the season?
Well, so far so good. I mean, what's not to like? They're leading their division again, coming off 2 straight President's trophies, so you expect them to be back there again. Finally getting healthy with Ryan Kesler coming back. David Booth is coming back next game, I believe. And so things are starting to come together. Even though they've been playing well, coming off a 6-game win streak recently, they have been missing in a few places. Their power play has not been fantastic. Their penalty kill leaves a lot to desire. It's been in the bottom third of the league. Definitely getting Ryan Kesler back is going to help in these areas. It's going to help the Sedins as well, who've been, I wouldn't say they're struggling, but they've definitely been off to a slower than usual start.
Right.
So Ryan Kesler with the Sedins on the power play is going to help the power play. Ryan Kessler's a fantastic penalty killer as well. Alain Vigneault seems to want to keep using him as a penalty killer. I'd like to see him get more premium ice time and maybe save him for the playoffs and use him in the penalty kill there. But Alain Vigneault uses him in all situations, and I mean, he's fantastic. Shorthanded, power play, 5-on-5. I mean, Kesler can do it all. He's a fantastic player. Having him back is definitely not going to hurt the Canucks at all. I think at the end of the day, if they're still sitting in it as a contender going into the playoffs this spring, he's going to be a huge piece as to whether they go deep in the playoffs.
So you're not worried about the playoffs at all with the Canucks?
About making the playoffs?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I would be surprised if the Canucks don't win the division, but I'm 100% sure they're going to make the playoffs.
What do you think about this? The Canucks having 2 number 1 goalies. What do you think's running through their heads?
Oh well, that's an issue that's been talked to death, to overkill. I mean, really, the great thing though that's taken the pressure off of it is that both goalies have played great. I mean, with the exception of this past weekend when Schneider and Luongo shared starts and both recorded a loss, they weren't great, but I don't think anybody's worried about them. I think the Canucks are in good shape with 2 goalies. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them get traded at the deadline. A lot of people seem to think it's going to be Luongo, but honestly, I'm in the camp that says, why not consider a Schneider trade? If you're going to consider trading a goalie, why not put Schneider in the mix as well? I think that he's a valuable asset that could bring a lot back to the Canucks as well. And personally, I'm a Luongo fan. I think he's a great goaltender. I do think the Canucks can win the Stanley Cup with Luongo in net. I'm not worried about him. I think the Canucks feel the same way. They probably feel like they can win with either, and they would move forward with either as well.
Well, let's move over to their Northwest rival, the Colorado Avalanche. They played the Predators today, and Matt Duchene scored quite a controversial goal today.
I wouldn't call it controversial. I would call it absolutely terrible. It was an awful, blown, missed call by the linesman. If you haven't seen this goal already, every sports outlet is going to be showing it a million times over and scrutinizing it. You will get a chance to see this goal. Matt Duchene was about 10, if not 15 feet offside by the time he touched the puck. I mean, he was so far offside, everyone on the ice stopped playing, including the goaltender, which Duchene moved in and roofed a nice little play on him. But I was so surprised to see the refs point at the net, then point at the center ice. Everyone lined up, and they continued playing, and they counted the goal. I mean, Barry Trotz and the rest of Nashville half of them were confused and half of them were going ballistic. They couldn't believe that this was called a goal and it wasn't called back. It was the worst offside call that I've ever seen missed in my life. It totally was a huge error, and I can't wait to see how the NHL responds to this error.
Wouldn't this be a good time to talk about Coach's Challenge, or do you think it would be beneficial in times like these?
Coach's Challenge, I think Barry Trotz right now is saying, please give me a Coach's Challenge. He would use it in an instant. This would be a great opportunity for Barry Trotz to throw a flag on the ice like they do in the NHL, or the NFL rather, or blow a whistle, just flag the ref down and let them go upstairs and do a proper video review of the play and determine that it was offside and call the goal back and be able to drop the puck and proceed with the game the way that it should have been played.
Well, bad calls like this affect the rest of the game. Or lack thereof of a call.
At that time, Matt Duchene scored what was the 3-1 goal. So it was a 2-goal lead at that time. Who knows how that works into the national psyche, with having to continue on a 2-goal lead. I mean, they did grind it out and come back in a sense. They made it a 6-5 game. They lost in regulation though, and that's potentially a point, maybe 2 points that they lost in the standings. Those might come back to haunt them in the standings when they are, trying to fit into the top 8 to make the playoffs or win their division. These are huge points, and when you're giving up 1 or 2 points like this, it's infuriating, especially when it's a shortened season. Every single point in every single game matters so much. A coach's challenge is something that's going to be discussed for the entire season. We're going to use this as an example of why we need to discuss whether it's something that should be brought into the game. Personally, as a fan of the game, I would love to see it. I think most coaches would love to have that option to be able to halt the game and go upstairs and do a proper video review to see if that was offside or that goal was, should be allowed or disallowed or it was a real penalty. Sometimes high stickings, someone takes a stick in the face that's their own teammates and the ref calls it as a high sticking penalty against them. You could have those opportunities to go upstairs and properly look at the play and call it the right way.
You don't think it'll slow down the game too much?
No, I mean, these games, they're high speed, high pace, they're entertaining, and they're over in 2.5 hours. I mean, it's out of the professional sports, it's like the fastest you can watch a full entire game. Right. For us to add 1 or 2 coaches' challenges into a game is not going to slow down the game to a pace where it's going to be too boring to watch. Right. I think that the fans will appreciate that their team having a chance to make the play a fair play and a fair call, and to come back in their team's favor if they've been
Games really can't afford to have bad calls like that. I mean, it really.
Oh no, especially this one, which truly you can say cost Nashville at least a point. Right. I have a hard time believing that they would have found a way to get back in that game if it was a challenged goal or the lines made the right call, the refs made the right call, and they called the game back and it was a 2-1 game, that Nashville couldn't have stayed in that game. But it changes the whole complexion of the game, so it's impossible really to forecast what the outcome would have been because it completely changes the mentality of the players.
Right.
But that's a discussion that I think is going to be ongoing for the rest of the season.
Right, so we'll definitely touch back on that, I'm sure. But we can talk about a big game tomorrow night in Chicago, record-setting game.
Record-setting game, record-tying game. Chicago has now played 15 straight games without losing in regulation. If they make it 16 tomorrow, they tie the 2007 Anaheim Ducks, who won the Stanley Cup that year as well.
Big game.
I don't think that you would be talking out of turn if you started talking about Chicago as probably the top Stanley Cup favorite right now. I mean, they look like a team that could contend for the Stanley Cup. The Vancouver Canucks are their competition too, which
makes it more perfect.
Which is very fitting.
Yeah,
it's very fitting because that's probably the best rivalry going in the NHL right now. Definitely in the Western Conference. So I think both teams are really chomping at the bit to get at it, and really, I think they're relishing the idea that for Vancouver they get a chance to stop Chicago from getting this record. For Chicago, getting to that record and having to go through a team like Vancouver that plays them really tough every game, is going to really prove that that's a record that they deserve.
Well, it'll be a good game, no matter what.
That's a must-watch for everybody.
All right, well, that's it for tonight. Thanks for joining us on The Last Shift. I'm Tara Jean. This is Rob Terra.
Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Good night.